Now, many people are absolutely amazed how easy it is to keep a very basic saltwater aquarium. It's very common that people will start with a saltwater aquarium and then they'll end up getting animals that really shouldn't be in that environment, because ultimately some fish and some coral are very easy to look after, whereas some fish and some coral are actually very difficult to look after. Now, the easiest of all the saltwater fish would have to be the Nemos, the clownfish. They're very, very easy to keep, and a lot of them are actually bred in captivity. So these fish here are a perfect option for beginners. So it's quite common for someone to start out buying an aquarium like this, and they will enjoy their Nemos. Then they may later on decide to move up to a larger aquarium, in which Nemo will get himself a promotion and will go into a bigger, more beautiful aquarium. And therefore the original aquarium can then be a perfect quarantine tank for your bigger aquarium. So assuming that you had this aquarium and you wanted to make it as low maintenance as possible, let me just quickly go through what you need to do. Now, on a semi-regular basis, so let's say about once a month, if you just came down to Majestic Aquariums, filled up this drum with salt water, and then you drained some of the water out of your aquarium using a gravel cleaner. So you're going to clean the gravel while you're taking the water out of the aquarium, and you're going to clean the filter. The way you clean the filter is just take out all the media, and then you're just going to rinse it in the bucket of water that you've removed from the aquarium itself. The other thing I'd highly recommend is putting polyfilter, and you could even retrofit Marine Pure into the filter. Now, the polyfilter in Marine Pure is going to turbocharge the filter to make sure the filtration is very good. Then if you're going to do a water change, you're just going to use a gravel cleaner to pull the water out. Then you're going to have some pre-prepared salt water to tip back in again. Now, the ornaments, if they start looking all covered in algae and stuff, you can just grab that, throw it in the sun. The sun will dry off the algae, and then you can hit it with a hose and put it back in. It usually looks good as new. So the other thing you need to do is, on a semi-regular basis, you want to bring us a sample of water down here to Majestic Aquariums, and then we can throw it through our spin test machine and tell you if anything's going wrong. And with a simple setup like this with just 2 clownfish in it, all we would really be requiring you to do is some extra water changes. The other thing you need to be aware of is that when you top the water up, you don't actually use salt water. It's better if you use RO water, because the RO water is going to make sure your salt level doesn't go up too much, because the salt doesn't actually evaporate. So the other thing that you'll need is like a magnet cleaner, and a magnet cleaner with a blade on it will allow you to clean the glass very effectively. You also want to reduce the amount of light hours you've got. So if you're getting algae in the tank, bring a sample of water down to us, bring us a little video so we can see how it's all going. And then if you are getting algae and you don't have live coral, just switch the light off. So if you reduce the amount of light hours, then you'll reduce the amount of algae. Now, people tend to get very creative with these tanks, and you've got to understand that if you're going to buy an aquarium like this, a pair of clownfish are likely to do very, very well. But people tend to get very creative because they get a lot of confidence with their clownfish. So then they might try something like a 6-lone wrasse. That will normally work. They may try a hawkfish. That will normally work. They may try a pair of shrimp like coral bandeds or cleaners. That will normally work. They might try some very basic corals like zoanthus, leather corals, fluffies, corellas. That will often work depending on the temperature of the aquarium. You really want to keep this aquarium at around 25 degrees. You'll find that the Nemo fish are very hardy and very flexible as far as that's concerned. But if you start getting fancy with corals and things, then if your tank gets too hot, that can absolutely be a problem. You can also consider things like starfish and urchins and cucumbers and snails and abalone. And then people often get creative with things like blue tangs and things, which often does not work. So if you are going to buy these very simple, basic aquariums, the key is to keep it simple and basic, because every aquarium has a capacity, and the amount of size, the amount of filtration, the amount of water flow, and all the other equipment that goes on is what gives you your capacity. So if you want a really fancy reef tank with heaps of range of corals and fish, you really want to get a very fancy setup. Whereas if you want a really basic setup, then all you really need is a basic setup like this. It's not even expensive. And then just regular water changes is usually enough. So if you just bring a water sample down, we can guide you. And if you need to do more water changes, we can let you know that. So instead of doing a water change once a month, we might start recommending once every 2 weeks for a while, but we can talk you through that process. So cleaning the glass, cleaning the filter, using a gravel cleaner for the water changes, and bringing in a sample of water every now and then is basically what's involved to keep this very basic saltwater aquarium. So saltwater does not have to be expensive, it doesn't have to take up a lot of time, and it doesn't have to take up a lot of space. Basically anyone could fit this in their house, and as far as a beautiful looking display is concerned, it will definitely be the feature of any home. So anyway, if you want more information on this stuff, make sure you subscribe to Majestic Aquariums TV on YouTube, and make sure you watch the 8-Point Principles seminar. So on YouTube, Majestic Aquariums TV, you can watch the marine aquarium and reef aquarium DVDs that we made from back in the day. They give you a very holistic understanding, and you can also watch the 8-Point Principles seminar, which breaks everything you need to know into 8 points. But basically, as far as this tank's concerned, all you need to know is if you're concerned about anything, grab a sample of water, make a little video, come down and see us here at Majestic Aquariums. And for a setup like this, as long as you're cleaning your glass and you're cleaning your filter every few months, all we're going to tell you most likely is just do an extra water change, and it is that simple. The other thing is that when you add any fish to the aquarium, you got to add some fish, wait a full month, then add some fish, then wait a full month. And if it's a fish only aquarium, it's much better to keep the salinity on the low slide. And then if you do raise it for any invertebrates, make sure you lower it before you put fish in. And that's covered in the 8-Point Principles seminar. So saltwater does not have to be hard, and it does not have to be expensive.